welcome to All Steelers Talk, your home for everything Pittsburgh Steelers, presented by allsteelers.com. What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping onto a special episode of All Steelers Talk live from Mobile, Alabama, down here at the Senior Bowl. I'm Noah Strackbein, joined every Monday and Wednesday, but this week it will be every day by my main man, Steven Thompson. Find us on youtube.com/allsteelerstalk or anywhere you get your podcasts. Today, we're obviously talking Senior Bowl, talking a little Pro Bowl snub as a Baltimore Ravens quarterback ends up in the Pro Bowl and not Kenny Pickett. Bonkers. Plenty to talk about. But first, Steven, how you feeling? How you liking Mobile down here?
I like Mobile. We ate very well last night. I think I'm still full from our barbecue last night.
Yeah.
This is the most humid place I've ever been. And I'm from Washington, D.C., which was literally built on a swamp. Like it is a swamp. And this is still the most humid place I've ever been. It's pretty ridiculous.
It is humid. I went for a run this morning, and I'm like as soon as I got down the road from our Airbnb, I was pouring sweat, and I was like, wow, I forgot what it's like to run when it's actually warm outside. Because like usually you take that first mile and you're just like, all right, now I could actually feel my hands and toes. This time I was just like, all right, we almost done. I'm dying over here. But it was nice. I'm excited to get down here. What you looking forward to? What's your big whether it's on the field, off the field, what you looking forward to at the Senior Bowl?
I'm looking forward to meeting a lot of the people here. Like this is a convergence of a lot of like really interesting people. It's people from all around the country, reporters, and obviously the players as well too. So I'm interested to talk with all those people. Just get to know some of those guys, some of those guys and gals, all those people who will be down here, and it's just it should be a good time and a good kind of melting pot of the whole NFL world down here in Mobile.
Yeah, it's actually pretty awesome. Like people talk about a lot of events in the off season. I've never been to a Super Bowl. That's still on my checklist, but the Senior Bowl is right up there with the Combine. They're my two things I look forward to in the off season. Like just a blast. Excited to get going. I want to talk about the Senior Bowl, but first we got to talk about the Pro Bowl. It's the first thing we got to talk about. So I'm on my run this morning, and I look down at my phone. I get a little notification, and what pops up? But Tyler Huntley is headed to the Pro Bowl in replace of Josh Allen. And my first thought is, how is that even an option? How did Tyler Huntley get there? And then my mind went, wait, who else could go in place of him? And then instantly, Kenny Pickett could go in place of him. You look at the numbers, it's even more crazy to think about. What was your reaction? I mean, you wrote the piece for us. What were you thinking when you saw Tyler Huntley in the Pro Bowl over Kenny Pickett?
Well, yeah, I mean, just anytime you can send a guy with a negative touchdown to interception ratio to the Pro Bowl, you just got to do it. That's just good television. No, and I mean, there's like, I don't get it. How does a guy start just 4 games, only play in 5 games this season, and make it to the Pro Bowl? Like that doesn't, like he didn't even play a full season. This is, it makes no sense to me from like a practical standpoint, just by the numbers. But even from like an entertainment value from standpoint for the NFL, like why you would send a career backup like Tyler Huntley, like no disrespect to him, that's tough to do, but over the intriguing kind of first quarterback taken overall in last year's draft, like there's a much better story there than there is. I mean, like shit, they did it for Mac Jones last year. Yeah. Why does Kenny Pickett not get that nod this year?
They should. I mean, you could talk about. I mean, Kenny Pickett also finished with a negative touchdown to interception ratio, but that's okay because guess what? People showed up to watch Kenny Pickett play football. Nobody showed up to watch Tyler Huntley. Nobody went to a Baltimore Ravens game going, man, I cannot wait to see Tyler Huntley play football. That's what the Pro Bowl is. Like you could say whatever you want about talent or impact or whatever. It's about who's showing up to watch these guys play flag football. And people are going to show up to watch Kenny Pickett play flag football. Nobody is turning on the Pro Bowl going, oh, Tyler Huntley's in, and then keeping it on. No disrespect to Tyler Huntley. I think he did a phenomenal job for what he was asked to do this year, and I think he stepped into big roles and nearly beat the Cincinnati Bengals in the playoffs. But Kenny Pickett led a team back from nothing finished on the highest note of the season, had the whole NFL raving about him by the end of week 18. I mean, it was just like, it was the obvious choice. It was so blatantly obvious. And I don't know who else was out there, but I mean, I don't even know who the AFC quarterbacks are, but you could have named, and like, did Deshaun Watson get passed up for Tyler Huntley? Did, I can't even name other quarterbacks, but I know, did Mike White should have got a nod before Tyler
Right.
Huntley.
I would rather watch Mike White sit back there and in a flag football game and just sling it like that.
Put Skylar Thompson in there.
Right.
People be super excited to go see Skylar Thompson in a Pro Bowl. Nobody's showing up for Tyler Huntley. And granted, I think Tyler Huntley did a good job again for what he was asked to do, but I'm sorry. 658 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions is just it's not Pro Bowl numbers. It's just not. It's just not even close.
He didn't even crack 1,000 yards. And like that,
No.
I don't know. That just, there was no, like you said, Tyler Huntley did a good job for what he was asked to do, but he wasn't asked to do a whole lot. It wasn't a particularly strenuous job. And I just don't.
No, it was 5 appearances, and you got to remember that the Steelers knocked him out of one of them, so it's really 4.5 appearances, and it's just not Pro Bowl numbers. Like, Mitch Trubisky did as much as Tyler Huntley did this season, 1 less games, granted, but just like how you pass Kenny Pickett up in a game that unless they called Kenny and said, hey, do you want to be an alternative? And he said no, but who in their right minds turned down a Pro Bowl check as a rookie to say, oh, no, I don't want to go play flag football and risk anything. Like, no, right. I'm going to go to the Pro Bowl and play flag football.
Well, I was thinking, what are the odds that Tyler Huntley woke up this morning and was like, oh, shit, like I was going to take vacation that weekend. Like, I don't want to go to the damn Pro Bowl. Like, he was not, I'm sure, I have to imagine he was just as blindsided by this as everyone else.
Oh, yeah, had to be. There's no way, like, anybody. John Harbaugh probably called him and he was just like, you're joking with me. There's no way I'm headed to the Pro Bowl. Absolutely crazy. But, the NFL makes very weird decisions all the time. This one is just wild to me. Like, this is the wildest decision they've made in a long time, I would say. To turn over to where we are, Mobile, the Pro Bowl, or the Senior Bowl, excuse me. It's going to be a good time. We got 3 days of practice. The Steelers have the whole house down here. Probably going to be looking at a number of positions. Obviously, there's no quarterback this year. The Steelers aren't looking for the big name. And the Senior Bowl has been exciting for the Steelers the last 3 seasons because they went, we need a big wide receiver. They found Chase Claypool down here. They came back down here. They saw it. They found Najee Harris, although they probably already wanted Najee Harris, but Najee Harris was the name down here. And then last year they were looking for a quarterback, and everybody lost their minds over Malik Willis. It's Malik Willis. Mike Tomlin met his mom. It's Malik Willis. Turned out to be Kenny Pickett. This year, it's a little different. They're looking for a couple of positions. They're obviously going to be looking for an offensive lineman, possibly defensive lineman, a couple of linebackers, some corners maybe that are down here. There's some names on this board that could be big for them. You look at the roster as a whole and what you know about the Steelers offseason and their needs. What are some positions you think they got their eyes on? Or what's the biggest position you think they got their eyes on down here in Mobile?
Yeah, I do think that offensive line is the position that they'll probably be looking at the most. You said, there's a chance for them to hit on some big pieces down here, or get to know some big pieces down here. That said, there's not a ton of, first round picks down here. There's not, even for those later round guys, it's going to be, second round or third round guys that will still probably make a big impact in some way next year or in the near future. But, there's no Kenny Pickett down here or anything like that. So I think just the way this offensive line class shakes out, there's still a ton of depth and a ton of talent down here that the Steelers will be looking for and that the Steelers really need. So I think offensive line is going to be one of those positions that I'm definitely watching the most.
Yeah, I think offensive line's a big one. Our buddy Nick, shout out Nick Martin, man. You guys watch the Steelers Draft Talk show every week. Him and Derek absolutely kill it. Nick himself puts out some phenomenal work on the draft from time to time for us. he gave us a list of guys that to start going through and really analyzing the last couple of weeks as we prepare here. And a couple of dudes have definitely stood out to me. I mean, everybody and their mother's talking about Darnell Wright in the last 48 hours. Me and you have joked about it quite a bit. He's a big name from Tennessee. He's a right tackle. I think the issue with him is people assume that he can move to left tackle, but I actually just reread Derek's scouting report on him, and he highlights heavily how he does not believe he can move to left tackle. He's just too big, not athletic enough, which makes sense, you know? Then you go into the conversation of, oh, can Chuk switch to left tackle? Is it too late for that? I think it is, if we're being honest. He's too embedded there. But you got some big names. I mean, you got John Michael Schmitz out of Minnesota, who's probably going to be the top center in the class. Osiris Torrance out of Florida, who I believe ESPN, maybe NFL Network, one of those two had the Steelers selecting with the 17th pick. Obviously, Darnell Wright, who many people have the Steelers selecting at 17. There's a couple of names down here that I think the Steelers could get a good look at. I love watching linemen, man. Like, people undervalue being able to just sit there and watch big men who have never worked with each other just maul over one another for 3 days. It is a blast.
And there's it's what's going to make it's one of the best places to watch, environments to watch offensive linemen versus, when we watch the receivers work and when they do one-on-ones with corners, they're going to do a lot of one-on-ones. They're not going to do full teamwork. And with that, there's going to be some asterisks to whatever you see guys do. You'll see some nice physical traits, maybe some nice ball skills and all that. But with offensive linemen, like when we watch them go one-on-one with some of these pass rushers and stuff like that, some of these other defensive linemen, that's much closer to what they'll be doing in live game action than what some of these other guys will be doing. So, I'm really excited to watch them, and I think we're going to learn a lot. I think you can learn a lot about linemen in this kind of environment. Like other names that we can look out for, Darwin Jones from Ohio State, just a huge guy. Cody Mock from North Dakota State, kind of going to be one of those darling, FCS guys that goes underrated, that people weren't watching on national television every week.
True.
That could take a big step up. Blake Freeland, Matthew Bergeron from Syracuse. There are a lot of really intriguing guys, especially at that tackle position. And it's definitely the tackle position, right? We're not looking at a whole lot of centers or interior linemen, right?
Look, I'm sitting here, Mobile, Alabama, to tell you some breaking news. Manscaped now sells beard products. That's right. They are once again revolutionizing men's grooming with their brand new Beard Hedger Pro Kit. From a beard trim to a fresh shave, the technology behind the Beard Hedger Pro Kit allows you to shape your signature beard look. Now you could finally use Manscaped products to make your drapes match the carpets by going to manscaped.com and using our code STEELERS20 for 20% off and free shipping. It's time to tame your mane. No one looks like a weird beard. No one likes a weird beard. So say goodbye to all your stubble trouble with Manscaped's Pro Beard Kit. It all starts with the Beard Hedger. This thing is a juggernaut of fixing faces. First off, this cordless trimmer has a rotary wheel that gives you 20 hair cutting lengths all in one guard. So no more messy drawers full of extra add-ons. That's right. Face grooming doesn't need to be hard. Get 20 different beard lengths in just one guard. That's how I went from this to this. Plus, it's waterproof, so you can shave in the shower to avoid all that hair in the sink. Everybody's going to love that. The titanium-coated T-blade is tough on hair but smooth on your face, leading to single-stroke efficiency that brings satisfaction one stroke at a time. The Pro Kit doesn't end there, though. They have created 4 dermatologist-tested formulations for your post-trim care. First, there is the beard shampoo and conditioner. You need to remember that all your hair is different. Your beard hair is more coarse and easier to damage than the hair on your head. That's why the kit has made shampoo and conditioner specially designed to moisturize, reduce ingrown hairs, replace natural oils, and promote beard health. Next, the kit has Manscaped's beard oil, an essential piece to your main facial accessory. No one wants a guy whose beard is brittle and dry. The oil relieves dryness both on the beard and the skin beneath, while adding a little shimmer and shine, making you look extra fine. Cap it off with the Beard Balm, a pomade that shapes, styles, moisturizes, and tames for a sculpted look to attract any fellows or dames. The Pro Beard Kit also comes with 3 free gifts: a beard brush, a comb, and scissors to ensure your beard is ready to impress. So get 20% off and free shipping with our code Steelers20 at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com. All you have to do is use our code Steelers20. Manscaped, beard hedger, 1 stroke, 1 guard, 20 lengths. Now, I would say center is filled. I think people have a weird, I don't know, like they believe that it's it's more open than it is, I would say. But I think that Mason Cole has solidified himself as the center in Pittsburgh, at least for the foreseeable future. His contract obviously ends after this upcoming season. Maybe they reevaluate it, but I think right now he's 26 years old. What are you pushing him out the door for? You know what I mean? Like him and James Daniels molded well together. You know, Mason Cole's a starting center in this league, whether it's in Pittsburgh or not. Maybe he's not the best center in the league, but he's a starting center in the league. I think the focus has to be left tackle, left guard for the Steelers. See if you could replace Kevin Dotson or Dan Moore Jr. I don't think it's a must happen down here in Mobile, but I do think it's a first step to seeing if it's actually real, like if that possibility is a real one for them. The names we've named, I think, are big ones, and I think that they'll have their eyes on there. Like last year, they sent down literally the whole house to watch the quarterbacks, and I think this year you'll see a lot of Matt Canada standing on the offensive line. You'll probably see Pat Meyer down here doing some work. You'll see Tomlin talking to a lot of guys. The whole nine. Like I don't remember. No, Kevin Colbert did come down here. Art Rooney might have came down here last year. I don't remember, but you'll definitely see Omar Khan down here and all those guys. If I had to imagine where they're going to spend most of their time, it's going to be the offensive line, and it's going to be left tackles, bigger name guys, and guys that can play the left side of the ball, probably guard. But if I had to pick, I think the Steelers have more faith in Dan Moore than they do Kevin Dotson. And they might be looking at bigger name guards than tackles as they start the process.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
On the defensive side of the ball, there's a couple of guys as well. I think that they're going to be highlighting. Obviously, the defensive line, defensive tackle, but there's some corners down here that I'm actually intrigued. So there's a guy. There's a couple of guys, obviously, you know. But there's one name. So I used to play Madden. I bring Madden up a lot, I feel like, on this podcast. But I used to play Madden all the time, and I'd get like real deep into like the franchise mode. You could ask all my buddies. They'd show up and be like, yo, you want to play Madden? And I'm like, oh, I don't actually. Like, I just want to play by myself, and I want to play the computer in a franchise mode because I'm a weirdo. But there's this one name that you always found like the 3rd to 5th round out of Miami. His name was Tyreek Stevenson, and the dude turned into a stud every single time. But like, you forget these guys, you know what I mean? Like, you play 4 years ago and you're 4 drafts deep, and you're like, oh, this guy's going to be phenomenal. And then they sneak up on him when they're actually in the NFL draft. Well, he's down here. I'm very excited to see him. He's a Georgia transfer. The dude played a lot of zone and a lot of slot during his time in Georgia, but he's real instinctive. Like he's got the ball skills that you really want out there. Transferred to Miami, played a little bit of both, played more outside than inside at Miami, but you know, is definitely a guy that I believe could be a mid-round kind of like, okay, let's keep an eye on this guy. I'm very excited to see him go off against a couple of guys. There's a linebacker that you know a lot about down here, Servassier Dennis. Nick actually named him, and he dropped us a list of guys that we should be paying attention to on defense as well. And Servassier was the first off-ball linebacker. I was a little surprised on that one. Where do you see Servassier going in the draft as of this point?
Yeah, I'd be really surprised if Servassier goes higher than the 3rd round. Incredibly smart guy. Got on the field like almost immediately when he came to Pitt, and once he did, he didn't leave it. He's such a smart player and a leader in that defense that was really good. He can do a lot of things. I think he's pretty versatile. They started trying to move him outside more, a little bit more this year, but he's an inside linebacker through and through. The size concerns are a thing, but I feel like at linebacker, he's a solid tackler too, and I feel like you can live with that a little bit if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, who especially have some options at linebacker right now. I really like Servassier. Just having watched him up close, he was, outside of Kalijah Cansey, he was the best player on that Pitt defense, which was a pretty good defense for all of his years that he was starting. He's it's a value pick, It's not.
Yeah.
He's not a day one guy. He's not an incredible talent like that. And there are some guys down here like Ivan Pace, who's expected to, I think, go closer towards the top of the first round. But I would say it's much more likely that the Steelers take a chance on a guy like Dennis instead of reaching for a guy like Pace in those top rounds.
Yeah, and knowing what we know about the Steelers, it's close to home, so they already know about this guy. Tomlin and Deuce could go talk and be like, hey, man, this guy's the smartest guy out there. And you want to know what I guarantee you Servassier Dennis is very good at? Special teams. And that's what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to be looking for in that year one linebacker. Off ball, I think that it's perfect because he is athletic. Like you said, he's a very smart guy, so he could develop. He's kind of the opposite. Like the way I look at Servassier Dennis, the reason I wanted to bring him up is not because he went to Pitt. It's because I think the Steelers right now have a lot of bruisers at inside linebacker. They have a Mark Robinson who's coming up and people have high expectations for him in year 2, but the guy's a run stuffer. He's just go hit whoever is in front of you as hard as you could. That people expect them to re-sign Robert Spillane. I think he's the same way. Miles Jack, same thing. Run stuffer, not super smart. I take that back. Miles Jack is a super smart guy, but not very pass coverage oriented. Let's say that. I think Servassier Dennis has the athleticism and the smarts to kind of be that other guy, that more, maybe not a run stuffer, but able to go play zone and play it well. Kind of, I think, it removes Robert Spillane from having to go play pass coverage, which would be awesome for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But I think he is definitely a name. I think there's a lot of guys. I mean, dude, Henry Tuatu, or the guy out of Bama with the greatest last name of all time. Yeah, To'o. Like, I'm just excited to just see him because of his last name, if we're being honest. And there's a lot of guys. There's definitely a lot of guys out there. Day one's going to be exciting. Thrilled to get to practice. Thrilled to evaluate. We're coming live every single day. Or not live, but we're coming full reports every single morning about the Senior Bowl. Me, you, Nick, as soon as his plane lands, which the dude has been trying to get here since 6:30 last night. So hopefully at some point, every time he texts me, he's just like, yeah, I'm fine, man. I'm just hanging out. I'm like, no, go yell at somebody. Get on a plane. We watched a GM do it yesterday when we got here, and worked fine for him. So we could, Nick could go do the same thing. Doesn't hold the same merit, but tell him to give me a call. One last thing I want to talk about before we head out of here. East-West Shrine Bowl out in Vegas. The Steelers are out there as well. They obviously didn't send Mike Tomlin or Omar Khan or any of those guys. They'll be down here. This is the big event. But the Shrine Bowl, it carries some big names. The Super Bowl is going to have one in wow, I'm blanking. Rutgers running back, Kansas City.
Pacheco,
Isaiah Pacheco. Thank you very much. He was discovered out in the Shrine Bowl last year. This year, the name that stuck out to me the most, Pitt's got 2 guys out there, I believe, in
Carter Warren. I believe it's Warren and Habakkuk Baldonado.
Yes, thank you, Baldonado. I'm blanking on names right now. But Warren met with the Steelers, spoke with him. He said that it went great. It believes that he's, a candidate for them. Isn't practicing out there because of it was a back injury that he suffered late in the season. Earlier,
I thought I heard shoulder, but yeah, it was
shoulder. Upper body,
some kind.
And then won't compete in the combine, although he was invited. But he will get he will participate at Pitt's Pro Day. I think that's huge for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Do you look at Carter Warren as a realistic option for the Steelers at this point? And do you think he's, NFL worthy, I guess, NFL capable, I should say, for a guy that'll go in the middle of the draft?
Oh yeah. Well, this was a guy who was capable of getting drafted, maybe not as high as he was this year, but he was considering coming out for the draft last spring. He was one of the better offensive tackles in the country, and was definitely a guy who could have made that leap to the NFL. He decided to come back to school. He told us the feedback was get better at the run blocking. And if you watched Pitt at all this year, that was 90% of what he did. He ran block a lot and ran block pretty well for Israel Abanikanda, who started running wild for a bunch of touchdowns. And Warren was a big part of that. And you could see when Warren went down with his injury, the offensive line took a little bit of a step back. They were still a decent unit, but Warren was the best player along that offensive line. He was a veteran. He's savvy. He knows what he's doing. He is big. He's a huge guy. I think because of that injury, he didn't jump as much as he could have. And especially just the way Pitt played offense. It was really centered around the run. I don't think he got a chance to prove his pass blocking capabilities as much as a left tackle, which when that's the position you play, that's kind of what you look at, especially as the league becomes more pass oriented. He'll be another kind of value pick, another later round pick. He's not going in the first or second round or anything like that. Maybe not even the third round, but
I was going to say, where do you see him falling? You think he's like a 4th, 5th round pick, or you think he drops to like the end of day 3?
No, I think he'll be closer to the start of day 3. He plays a premium position and he's really good at it. I think around that fourth round, end of the third, maybe at the highest range. I think it'll be interesting when we talk to guys here. Let's talk to those interior offensive linemen, see what they're saying. Like how many of these guys are talking to the Steelers. Because if they want to pick up one of these interior linemen, a center or a guard earlier in the draft, then Warren could definitely be there as a later option at tackle, and they can kind of address both needs without, kind of sacrificing anything.
Yeah, for real. If they have 3 picks in the top 50. So if you fill a cornerback need, you fill maybe an inside linebacker need, and you fill a guard need in the first 3 picks, and then you come back at the end of the 3rd or even the beginning of the 4th if he slides and go Carter Warren. I mean, that's a guy with minimal expectations. And I think the Pittsburgh Steelers like those guys with minimal expectations. Bring another Dan Moore in here, hope that he turns out to be better than Dan Moore. If he's not better than Dan Moore, you stick with Dan Moore. Meanwhile, you upgraded Kevin Dotson and you feel fine about that. At the same time, he obviously has a relationship with the Steelers because everybody that goes to Pitt has a relationship with the Steelers. And he was Kenny Pickett's left tackle for like 35 games or something. I was looking at the numbers earlier. So they have a connection, and Kenny Pickett's obviously in the middle of those rounds going to be like, I hope that they snag Carter Warren. Maybe he says something, and I'm sure that they will. I'm sure that when Mike Tomlin and Omar and Art Rooney and Andy Weidel sit down and, start evaluating these mid-round guys, they're going to give Kenny Pickett a call anytime that he's got a connection to one of them and say, hey, what's this guy like? Is he a leader? How hard as a worker is he? Do you trust him? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm sure Kenny's going to give Carter one raving review. I think that's a possibility. Like, I think that's a bit overlooked in what the Steelers can do. Everybody wants to talk about Jordan Addison coming to Pittsburgh and reuniting that. I think the Steelers would be much more interested to suit up Kenny Pickett and an offensive line that helped him win ACC Player of the Year and an ACC championship and break a bunch of records. So I think that's a move for the Steelers and one to monitor, especially as we hit Pitt's Pro Day later next month, I believe, maybe the end of March, I believe it is.
And if you're going to invest so much in Kenny Pickett, you take his word seriously. And rebuilding that Pitt team has been kind of a joke. Rebuilding that Pitt team through the draft, just on the pro side, has been kind of a running joke this offseason for Steelers fans and Steelers media. But I mean, look, if Kenny gives a glowing endorsement of a guy, you're not gonna ignore that.
Yeah, I mean, what's the harm? You bring in his left tackle and you bring in his wide receiver, and things work out. You're just like, well, things worked out. That's all it is. And the best part about Carter Warren is Jordan Addison would have very high expectations. He would easily overstep Calvin Austin and any progress he makes. Carter Warren, like I said, he just comes in here and he's got an opportunity to compete, and the Pittsburgh Steelers don't hold any merit to how high his ceiling is. They're just watching to see if he's good enough to be considered the guy at some point in his career. I think that's where the Steelers threshold is, and I think they would feel very good about that move 100%. All right, we're heading out of here. We're heading to the Senior Bowl. Very excited to get down there day one of practice. Like I said, we will be coming every single day. We will have reports on the YouTube, on the audio, on the website, allsteelers.com, live from the Senior Bowl. Plenty of content, 3-man job down here. We're feeling real good to get out there, get excited, and bring you guys as much content and as much coverage as humanly possible. As always, make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/allsteelerstalk. Subscribe anywhere you get your podcasts and like this video. We'll be back tomorrow. Peace.